Hi there behind your computer, and welcome in this cloud or on-site seminar for business decision makers. So for people who are not really familiar with information technology but are continuously attacked with all kinds of messages to move their IT to the cloud. My name is Hans de Meyer, and I have been a trend watcher since the early 80s, mainly focused on information and communication technology. I've been working since the early 90s for Microsoft and also for plenty of other companies in the ICT world. You can find more information on what I do either in my LinkedIn profile or on our Facebook page, Suppliers of Optimism. But basically what I do is inform business decision makers in an entertaining way and help them to make better informed decisions. And so what I would like to do with you today is spend like 30 minutes on the choices cloud computing or on-site computing. In other words, do I have to follow what people say out there, or is my company doing well as we currently do? And I would like to do so from a business point of view. So what are we currently doing? What is the focus of our business, and how does IT meet with this focus? And what about the future of this all? Let's start with the first basic question, which is what keeps us awake? And if this is a model I once heard at a partner conference in the United States by one of the Microsoft external partners specialized in business consultancy, and they had this great model, and they say, like, look, as a business decision maker, your most important capital is your human resources. Everything works or does not work based on their efforts and their productivity and their motivation. Whatever way you turn it, that's right, because if you have motivated people, you will generate business, and business generates cash. Now, with cash you can not only work, you also need to have margin, right? And the more efficient your HR works, the higher your margins will probably be. And these margins will allow you to invest, and these investments will allow you to grow. Now, growth does not necessarily mean that you want to be a multinational. It's just like move with the pace of the economy, right? Now, with regard to the margin, there's two ways of looking at the margin. There is like the top of the iceberg, and the top of the iceberg is what our accountant says. It says like, okay, you're making benefits, this is your cash position, etc. Now, the bottom part is the hidden part, the part where we can continuously do efforts in times of what does it cost and what does it yield? And that goes for our personnel, that goes for our IT infrastructure, and for all the tools we work with. Now, I found a report a couple of years ago from Ernst & Young for the European countries, and more specifically my country, which is Belgium, and they calculated two years ago, I guess, that 1 hour of labor is like 53 euros of cost. Now, I think today we can say easily that it's like 60 euros, so that would bring every minute of work or performance back to a cost of 1 euro. And from that point of view, you can easily calculate how much time you can win, how much money you can win, and what is the impact of changing the switches in your organization. And basically what you would like to do is decrease the time spent between input and output on a various range of levels. Input could be a decision you take to hire someone, and the moment, the output side, the moment that person is really fully operational. Input could be an issue that presents itself and the time needed to move to a decision on the issue, and a well-informed decision. Input could be an order and an invoice, right? And how long does it take, and how much confusion can there be, and how much versions of the truth, and how much negative consequences by working maybe on older platforms. That's what it's all about. Win time, win money. Obviously, we use a lot of tools to get there, right? but today we focus on the IT. And the IT has historically been installed in our offices, where we started off with 1, 2, 3 and more PCs, which we in the very beginning connected onto each other, and that was the so-called peer-to-peer networks. And they allowed us to share information, right? And we did so locally and within our offices. Like somewhere in the mid-90s, well, maybe some of you did it before, but we connected these devices onto the internet, and as you see represented here by a cloud. But of course, the cloud is nothing more but a good marketing name for the internet with some added value. And so what we found there on the internet at that time was like email services, PC banking, and just retrieval and looking for information. Now, if cloud computing is totally strange to you, well then make the comparison with what you currently do with your bank, right? I don't think any of you still goes to the bank with an envelope filled with money and some bulletins to transfer the money. I don't think you do that, to spend then like 2 hours waiting before it's your turn. Now you just connect from your PC through the internet over a secured connection onto a partner that you trust, a partner that invested in a huge server infrastructure, in securing the infrastructure, in developing software to meet with your demands, which is manage and transfer your money. And so you just pay a monthly fee to use these services, and you get everything accessible from today your laptop, your mobile phone, and any other device. So that's like an example of cloud computing avant la lettre. But the basic model you see here is one that we are currently working on, which is the bottom right corner, the on-site model, where you tend to buy your infrastructure, which is so the capital expenditure model, and the top left part is the cloud model, where you rely on an external partner to rent services as you need them. But now let's first focus on the bottom part. So we said that we started with some computers, we connected them onto the internet. A little bit later on, we started to adopt the client-server infrastructure, even in the smaller companies. And one of the nice inventions here was Microsoft's Small Business Server, which provided also in the early 2000s the power and the strength of the bigger companies, but on a small scale. And that allowed us to reorganize our networks in a much more secure and performant way, and also to enable mobile and external users to connect onto this local workplace, and so work from home or other areas. With the rise of the 3G accessibility and affordability, this has become very popular over the past few years. Next, we added locally more server roles. We started with VPNs and all kinds of advanced connectivity tools onto our local cloud, which of course demands maintenance, investment, the constant worry of upgrading everything and making sure that everything is highly available so that our fish can swim whatever pool they want to visit. With regard to availability, I made this small calculation based on some premises on the number of days we work per year, which is 220, an average of 8 working hours a day, and I'm reading from left to right. And suppose that we have got like 12 people working in our company, that would be like a total of 21,120 hours they work. Now, you may or may not know that availability of your infrastructure is expressed in a number of nines. Now, 7 nines is the ultimate availability, but locally speaking for your company, if you would arrive at 99 or 99.9, which is 3 nines, you would be doing very, very well. But suppose that we have a 99% uptime, then we would still be out of work during 211 hours. Or calculated with the Ernst & Young figures of €60 per man hour, that would lead to a hidden loss of €12,000. So if we increase the availability with 0.9% and raise it from 2 nines to 3 nines, we see a drop in our hidden cost of over 10,000 euros. And as such, you can keep on counting, and if you arrive at the ultimate summum of 7 nines, you would only lose like 1.27 euros. So that, in terms of availability, is a worry. And unfortunately, since the small business server editions, and more specifically and certainly the 2011 edition, smaller companies can now set up an environment that is highly available for up to 75 users, with some restrictions, but okay, they have an Exchange server that is fully operational. They can use SharePoint, which is a very performant intranet solution and collaboration platform, and the thing is managed partially automatically through update services, but also through to a simplified management console. And there's plenty of reports available on all kinds of activities you maintain on the server. Now, the small business server also allows you to set up easy access from remote connections, remote workplaces. Home users, sub-offices and other locations can easily get onto the server and work. In order to increase this performance, the small business server provides premium add-ons, which is in fact extra licenses which can be run either in a virtual context or on a physical second server. And that allows you to centralize not only your data but also applications, and set up infrastructures locally at your place that allow and that will increase the availability, the security and the performance of your entire network. Small business server is a very performant environment. As you can see here, some examples. Locally nothing changes, but if I'm a remote user, for instance, and since we're talking about cloud computing, if I set up my small business server in the lower part, the lower right part, which is on site and buying my licenses, then from anywhere I can get connected onto this workplace using a browser, so I'm completely device independent, to check email, to check calendars, to share information. I can also go onto my company web, which is the SharePoint site over here, and you see I'm still in a browser, and so I can do it from any computer. I can get into my data in a very normal and familiar way, copying, pasting, searching information, so that's very, very, very transparent, as you can see. And I can take over computers. If I have a local network and on one of my computers I have my accounting software, I can now use this local infrastructure based on Windows Small Business Server to open up computers and work on them from a remote location from any device. So what you basically see is that with Small Business Server you actually create your own little cloud environment, and so you have your little private cloud. But together with this private cloud you also have some extra worries and efforts. You have worries like, oops, what if the next small business server comes out with additional functionality I may want to use? How much time and effort will it cost to do an upgrade? How much time and effort does my security requires? And a lot of typical questions that in the end are at the cause of the fact that a lot of companies still work on obsolete infrastructure. Because hey, moving from Windows 2003 server to the 2008, for instance, what we have currently works in our perception, but actually it's not secure, and it lacks a lot of performance and possibilities which you do need at this moment. I compare it with driving my car on the left lane of the highway, where I can do 120 kilometers per hour. Well, if there's someone in front of me driving 90 kilometers per hour because of the car, or because of the mindset, or because of just distraction, I couldn't care less, but that is not the thing I like, and neither do you, I'm sure. So I wouldn't like my company to be the one that moves at 90 per hour and losing customers and getting people around me nervous because I'm afraid to upgrade part of my infrastructure. Now, upgrading is one thing, doing it locally is one thing, but today you can move more and more things into this so-called cloud, and that's where we are going to now. The question is, of course, what is available in the cloud, and should I put it there? Well, let's look at it from a business point of view. And basically, what you should be doing, first of all, is pinpoint the added value in your IT infrastructure that makes you different, right? So the first question is, to what extent does my current software and hardware provides perceived and differentiating added value to my customers? Let me give you an example. Using email is not really a differentiator, right? Having an intranet is not really a differentiator. But being able to provide your customers with somewhere an online access to place orders, to check statuses of their orders, that would be added value, right? But I know a lot of companies, and for your information, I deliver about 80 seminars every year, addressing per seminar between 10 and 20 business decision makers, so you get a lot of feedback. Well, a lot of companies don't even get to the point where they start offering these added values to their customers, because so much money and effort is spent in the basic infrastructure that does not really provide added value. So that's the second question. What am I currently paying, and what is the effort that I'm putting into my IT infrastructure, and is it in proportion with the added value? So if I'm investing, let's say, like 5,000 euros every year locally in email, not even having the latest of software to use it, is that in proportion with the added value? Well, probably not, but it's a question you have to ask yourselves. And then the third question is, what can I do to increase the added value, and what are my options? In other words, is the cost and effort of doing a local upgrade justifiable with regard to the added value, or would I rather keep the cost as low as possible, use the service, and invest my money into things that increase the added value, right? And that's where a lot of options are possible today. And these options, you could place them on, the triangle, the Maslow triangle. Well, let's get rid of the personal satisfaction, food, drink, etc. and distinguish like three categories of needs that we have. So the basic needs, I would say, are the ones with low perceived added value, right? The line of business needs have a higher added value, but most of the time, well, increasingly, of course, they get centralized, but we do see, however, a lot of infrastructures and a lot of companies where even their line of business is not really structured in a centralized way. And there's the nice to haves. Let me give an example. Link, for instance. A lot of companies don't even get to the point to invest in Office Communication Server or currently the Link 2010 server, just because they think it's like, oh, what an effort, what a cost. We would like to have it. When we see it, we say, wow, but nah, not in our place. So what I would say here is lower your efforts and your costs for the basic needs and spend your money on fine-tuning your line of business and your nice-to-haves. That will create a lot more added value for your local workers as well as your employees. And that's the bottom line of your decision-making process. And the good thing is that today, with regard to the basic needs, you can do somewhat everything in the cloud. More and more line of business applications, the most frequent ones, accounting, ERP, customer relation management, also removed to the cloud, are moving to the cloud. And the nice to have, well, you increasingly find them also over there, voice over IP, communication tools, and everything else. But it's a matter of choosing yourself. So that brings us to the definition of cloud computing, which could be, there's a lot of definitions, but this is one I particularly like. It's run someone else's software on someone else's service on someone else's location and pay a fee to use it in real time on a local device, right? And you just use the internet. There are some key attributes, and these attributes have been defined by IDC, from whom I borrowed some information for this presentation. So it's just too technical a part of the matter, which is not the purpose of today. We remember that cloud computing is like, you don't have anything anymore in the house, you just put it elsewhere, and you use it and you pay for it. With this area, you will be attacked by a lot of acronyms like IaaS, SaaS, PaaS, DaaS, etc. So you can use infrastructure in the cloud. That's like the bottom line, where you say like, hey, I need a... You have platform as a service with Windows, Azure, Intuit, Google is there, Force.com, WebEx Connect. You have software as a service, and that's the bottom part. That's the top part. I mean, that's actually the part that most of you are going to be interested in, where a lot of familiar names are present, and where Microsoft now has, I think, the most powerful of the ones that you see on here platform, which is called Office 365. Now, before we dive into the Office 365 part, just a little word on the two squares we haven't dealt with, the on-site rental part. Well, one of the let's say easiest examples here is Microsoft's open subscription licenses, where you kind of rent your licenses. And the bottom part on the left side would be like hosting your own servers, moving them from your local premises into an external data center, where you rent a room, electricity, network connection, and you put them there for a variety of reasons. Now, Office 365 is part of a wide series of Microsoft software as a service. It comprises Exchange Online, Lync Online, SharePoint Online, and it can be complemented with other services like Windows Intune, which is management solution, Forefront, an online security solution, Microsoft Dynamics CRM Online, which is customer relation management, the Windows Live Idea, which could be a nice add-on because it provides 25 gigabytes of free space. It has got synchronization tools and a lot of added value for a wide range of applications. And on the left part, you also see the Xbox Live, which is also a perfect example of cloud computing. The good thing is that on the other side, the bottom part, you just need a PC to connect onto it. And not only a PC, but also maybe a Windows Phone or similar device will help you to get the best out of these services. So Office 365 is actually a cloud solution that provides you with communication, collaboration, and personal productivity tools where you do not invest anything but a local PC and a mobile phone on the local side. And you just rent it, and there's a wide range of possibilities, starting at like a couple of euros up to like 20 euro per user per month for the full monty of services. It's very performant, very interesting, and it is complemented with another small business service solution named Small Business Server 2011 Essentials, because a lot of you will still want some on-premises infrastructure for local backups, for maybe local storage or local applications you would like to run that are not available in the cloud. So Microsoft is going to launch, together with Office 365, the SBS Essentials, which is basically a very cheap server that will support up to 25 users, take care of local backups of both PCs and Macintoshes, and will help you to set up a locally accessible infrastructure that provides local cloud services and that is connected onto the Office 365 environment on the top left corner for everything that is Exchange, SharePoint, and Lync services. So something to look forward to. Right. That's a little bit where we come from. It's a little bit where we are going to. So you definitely see the move into the cloud, and we also see that there's a high degree of maturity out there. And so let's now have a look at what people think about it, right? So IDC did a panel back in the end of 2009, asking people what would be the likelihood to pursue the cloud model for. And so First of all, people think the cloud is the excellent platform for collaboration applications, which we find in SharePoint, for instance. Web applications, which could be the, for instance, Office 365 platform with the Office web applications. The data backup or archive services, and then it goes into business application, personal productivity applications, data content distribution services, and other needs where they would say like, hey, we would put that into the cloud. Do they like the cloud? Well, they probably do, and IDC asked the panel why. And so they see as benefits that, first of all, the pricing model would be more attractive, the flexibility to deploy it, the fact that you have a monthly payments, so you move from the CAPEX to the OPEX model. People also say that probably will encourage the standardization, which is true. It requires less in-house IT staff and so less costs. And you're always with the latest infrastructure available. Exchange has a new version. Well, you will use it. You will get it, right? So it's simpler, and some of them even say, look, that's the way of the future, right? But it's not all positive. People also have their fears with regard to the cloud, and of course the main one is security. Fears about availability, performance, and then some uncertainties with regard to the pricing model, the standards, etc. Now, with regard to security, if you look at it in detail, I mean, personally, I have more confidence in having my data hosted in a well-protected data center that on top falls under the European legislation. So with regard to protection, confidentiality, etc., and privacy, and it's less vulnerable out there than it would be in my premises, where I can have like hard disk crashes, where I can have theft, where I can have natural disasters or anything that may endanger the integrity of my information. The same goes for availability. People say, hey, it's out in the cloud. If I don't have an internet connection, I can't work. Yeah, well, provide maybe over there some redundancy. I mean, if the cloud model is appealing to you, well, you will do some economies, and the only thing I would do personally is like take two internet providers and create redundancy in my internet connection. So if one falls out, I still have another one. And a third option would be my mobile internet, which provides me even with a connection, even in case of power outage, etc. So my productivity in the end, or availability, even increases. And with regard to performance, I think that's mainly a matter of drawing the model correctly. Have a look at what you will use locally and what you will use in the cloud, and use the state-of-the-art technology of caching and bandwidth optimization to make sure that your overall performance isn't suffering from a cloud decision you took. And for that, of course, you will rely on your IT partner. So I think that the main reasons, the main fears just need some extra explanation to be totally wiped out of the table. And as I said, performance will depend on the model you choose. And with regard to that model, just know, and that's the final idea I would like to share with you, that the cloud is the future, but it's not the exclusive future. You will still have probably very much needs for deploying things locally, and Microsoft has for almost any area, ranging from productivity over communications, collaborations, business applications, management, security, database and platform services. Microsoft offers an on-premise solution and a cloud solution. And on top of that, a very interesting set of options to mix the two, both from a license point of view as well as from a technical point of view. So I think they're an excellent partner to partner with regard to the cloud. They offer a wide range of options to go for. And so what I would invite you to do next is have a look at Office 365 and some detailed seminars which will be published later on. For now, thank you for having been here. Wish you a lot of success with your cloud decisions. And I hope to see you soon in one of the other webcasts. Bye bye.